Hello, everybody, and welcome to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. I am your host, Bill Yankovi, and this is a very packed week here. Going to be reviewing NXT TakeOver 31, plus going to be talking about the WWE Draft that begins tonight as I'm recording this, and I'm going to tell you which 5 should move from SmackDown to Raw and which 5 should move from Raw to SmackDown, plus the latest wrestling news and much more. Because this is a loaded show, I feel like just going right into NXT TakeOver 31, get that out of the way because, well, I mean, it's loaded this week. So, there were 5 matches on the show, and I'm going to give you my grade for each match of the pay-per-view, plus I'm going to give you Meltzer's ratings and the ratings from CBS Sports, and then I will ultimately tell you the grade that I gave this show. So, let's kick it off. They do a very nice opening package, and I mean, it was an actually nice video package of, I guess it's a way to say that the Performance Center is now the Capital Wrestling Center, an ode to Capital Sports. So that was a nice little clip, nice little video montage to start off the pay-per-view. And then we get to the action. So the opening match is for the NXT North American title, Damian Priest defending the North America title against Johnny Gargano. This was an okay match. There were just some parts during this match that I just could not really get into, and I'm not really sure what it is, or, I just didn't feel the mix between the two. I really didn't. And it's back and forth. Gargano works on the shoulder, also works on the leg of Damian Priest. And then towards the end, Priest does a dive over the corner, lands on a couple of guards. Johnny Gargano kicks him low. Gargano tries to get a pin, gets a 2 count. Damian Priest eventually comes back, hits his finishing move to be able to get the pin on Johnny Gargano. I don't know. This opening match just really didn't do it for me. I gave this a C. It just didn't do much for me. Meltzer gave this 3 3/4 stars. CBS Sports gave it an A-. So, CBS keeps drinking that, keeping, the drinking the Kool-Aid there. Next match is Kushida against Velveteen Dream. So Velveteen Dream is dressed up as Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Okay, makes sense because of Kushida's character being Marty McFly from when he was in Japan. Kushida goes right after Dream before the bell, and this is a one-sided match. I mean, Kushida beats the crap out of Velveteen Dream. It is just kicks and punches and more kicks and just going after the arm, and Dream's just not getting any offense in until towards the end, which is maybe at best 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then Kushida wins with the hoverboard arm lock. And then after the match, Kushida just snaps and goes after Velveteen Dream, and it takes 3 referees to finally get him off. And it must have been like 2 or 3 times after the bell rang before Kushida was finally done, which I actually kind of liked. I liked that different version of Kushida seen here. I gave this a C+. It's a good match, but I think the big story coming out of this is the development of perhaps a nastier side of Kushida, which I liked to see. So I gave this a C plus. Meltzer gave it 3.25 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B. Next match was for the Cruiserweight title. Santos Escobar defending against Isaiah Swerve Scott. This was a really good match. If it had not been for the main event, this would have been my match of the night. Good Cruiserweight style match. Back and forth. Lots of near falls. During the match, Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, members of Legado del Fantasma, try to interfere, and then Ashante Adonis, who I don't think I'd ever seen before, and if I have, I'm going to feel bad for, being like, oh God, I can't believe I missed that, came out to even the odds, but the ending was so good. Scott hits a beautiful 450 splash. Goes for the cover. 1, 2, just kicks out. I mean, that hand was maybe 6 inches away from the mat from Escobar losing the title. It was that close. And then they go onto the apron. Escobar kicks Scott, and the back of Scott's head hits the exposed metal of the turnbuckle. And then Escobar comes in. He hits a nice DDT variation. It's like a DDT, and he puts his knee in there to get the 3 count to retain the Cruiserweight title. Very, very good match. I gave this a B-. I enjoyed this match. Obviously, you could tell the chemistry is there between the two. Hopefully, we could get more matches between the two down the line. Meltzer gave this 3.75 stars. CBS Sports gave it an A- on this one. Then we go to the NXT Women's title match. Io Shirai against Candice LeRae. Now, I will say this. For the majority of this match, it is a good match. It's the ending that just killed me. The ending of this match is what killed me. So we have a really good back and forth match between the two women. Very good match. Then the referee accidentally gets knocked down. Okay, so ref's down. He tries to get up a second time, and when he goes down the second time, he goes all the way to the floor. So he's out of the picture. LeRae eventually hits a curb stomp. And I mean old school curb stomp. Super Dragon old school curb stomp onto Io Shirai. She's got the win. And I counted. She had her for at least a 7 count. That is until Johnny Gargano, with a referee shirt on, comes out to make the count. Did we not learn this from Extreme Rules 3 months ago? Apparently not. Anyway, Johnny goes for a quick count. Io kicks out at 2. Gargano rolls to the outside, grabs the NXT Women's title. And as he's in the ring, the referee manages to get back up. He looks at Johnny and he's like, "You're wearing my shirt. Why are you wearing my shirt?" And Johnny's like, no, this is my shirt. And they have this argument. So as this is going on, Gargano puts the belt behind his back, drops the belt in front of Candice LeRae. Then he takes his shirt off, distracts the referee even more. LeRae hits Io with the belt, knocks her out, and you think she's got it. She's going to steal the title. 1, 2, Io kicks out. Io eventually makes a comeback, hits a moonsault. 1, 2, 3. Io Shirai retains the NXT Women's title. Had it not been for the real bad ending to this match, I would have really enjoyed this match and I would have given it a higher score, but the ending really hurt it for me. I gave this match a C. It was a very good match. The ending just ruined it. I did not like that ending. Meltzer gave it 3 3/4 stars. CBS Sports gave it a B+. Now, after the match is where it actually gets kind of fun. It gets kind of fun. So, Candice is going to the back, Johnny's going to the back, ref's going to the back, Io's celebrating. Then we see on this sideboard, I said sideboard, not cyborg, it's Toni Storm. Toni Storm cuts a promo, and she's saying that she's coming to NXT. And she's coming to take the NXT Women's title. Okay, alright. I can dig that. I like Toni Storm. She's a good wrestler. Io Shirai is a good wrestler. So you'd think, okay, end of the segment, job well done. Well, then we get Night Vision, and we see somebody riding a motorcycle. And this person is making their way into the building. Okay, well, it's either one of two things at this point. This person is either coming out in this segment, or this person's going to come out in the main event. Well, this person came out right now. Person's got a helmet on. Don't know who it is. And the person takes the helmet off, and it is the returning Ember Moon. And oh my goodness, did the women's division at NXT just get interesting with Io Shirai. You can make the argument the best women's wrestler in the world, Toni Storm, who's a phenomenal wrestler at such a young age, and Ember Moon, who's a former NXT Women's Champion. She's been in the position before and is a great addition to the women's division. I'm really looking forward to see, story-wise, what happens with those three in the upcoming weeks. I'm really looking forward to it. Then we go to the main event of this show. Finn Balor defending the NXT title against Kyle O'Reilly. This was a straight-up, hard-hitting battle. This was a fight if there was ever a fight. These two men go at each other. They're brutalizing each other. Forearms, kicks, punches, you name it, they were doing it. And it was a clean wrestling match. It was just two guys. It's a hybrid mix of wrestling, MMA, and I'm going to say what Wade Barrett said during the commentary, BJJ, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, I don't think it's that hard to say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu unless somebody has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu trademarked or copyrighted right away, which I highly doubt. But this is such a good match. During the match, Kyle O'Reilly, he's bleeding from the mouth. And then towards the end, Finn Balor, he's busted in the mouth. There's blood coming out. It is a good back and forth match. Finn uses the coup de grace from the top rope. And you'd think, okay, well, Kyle's going to kick out. It's got to take 2 or 3 to beat him. No, it's a 3 count. 1 coup de grace, and it's all over. Finn Balor retains the NXT title in a very, very good match. We all knew Finn was going to win this match, but God, this was such a good match to watch. This was my favorite match of the show. I gave this a B. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Kyle O'Reilly's really got a future in NXT as a singles competitor. Yeah, he's a tag team specialist with Bobby Fish, but as a singles competitor, how could you not be in to Kyle O'Reilly? I really don't know. Meltzer gave this match 4.5 stars. CBS Sports gave it an A. And then we go to the traditional NXT ending, which is something has to happen at the end. Ridge Holland, who they've been pushing a little bit the last few weeks, few months, has Adam Cole on his shoulder. Cole is knocked out, and he gets dumped over onto the floor, and everyone's like, who did it? What happened? That's the end of the show. Unfortunately, this past Wednesday on NXT, Ridge Holland got injured. So it looks like whatever was going to happen with that is going to have to be put on the back barrel for quite a while. It's a bit disappointing. Hopefully Ridge Holland gets better. My overall grade for this show. I said going into it last week that this was probably on paper the weakest of the NXT cards. And I still think that way. I think this was a perfect example of how weak the NXT division is right now. But, I mean, part of it is because of COVID. Let's be honest. Part of it is because of COVID, and part of it is because some of these guys and women are on the main roster. And I think it's going to get hit again these next few days. Saying that, the show was okay. There wasn't a terrible match on this show. There was one match that just had a really dumb ending that I didn't like. Other than that, it was an alright show. I'm going to give this a C. Easily not my favorite takeover, but it might not be the worst takeover. I'll say that. Favorite match from this show, hands down the NXT title match. O'Reilly and Balor was just a very, very good match. If those two wrestled again in the near future, sign me up. I would watch that match again in a heartbeat. So that is my review of NXT TakeOver 31. Okay, let's get into some news, and we're going to start off with New Japan Pro Wrestling as, well, there aren't that many events left in the 2020 G1 Climax Tournament. As a matter of fact, we are down to the final 7 shows until we find our winner. They're going to have 2 shows this weekend, one in Osaka, one in Aichi, and then they're going to have shows on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the finale next Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Tokyo, where we will crown the winner of the G1 Climax. Only 2 people eliminated from the tournament. Yujiro Takahashi cannot win this mathematically. Neither can Yoshihashi. Takahashi is at 0-6. Yoshihashi 1-5. Both of them mathematically eliminated. Looking at the A block, right now there is a 4-way tie for first. Kota Ibushi, Will Ospreay, Jay White, and Kazuchika Okada, each with a 4-2 record, followed by Taichi, Minoru Suzuki, Tomohiro Ishii, and Shingo at 3-3, and Jeff Cobb at 2-4. Meanwhile, in the B block, Tetsuya Naito is in first place at 5-1. Evil is in second at 4-2. And then you got this big jam in the middle here. Juice Robinson, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Toru Yano, Zack Sabre Jr., Sonata, and Hiroki Goto at 3-3. And Kenta is at 2-4, just barely hanging on as we are getting closer to the end of the G1 Climax. Now, staying with New Japan, it was announced this week that in November and into December, they are going to combine the Best of the Super Juniors tournament and the World Tag League tournament. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. The Best of the Super Juniors, for those of you that are not familiar with New Japan, usually happens around the end of spring, late spring, sort of into early summer. Well, because the whole world was shut down, we did not have the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. The World Tag League tournament usually happens around November. The middle of November goes into Thanksgiving. So this year, they are going to combine both tournaments. What I mean by that is that both tournaments are going to take place at the same time. Now, this is how it's going to happen. The first day, November the 15th, which is a month away, the entire card is going to be the first set of matches for the World Tag League and the Best of the Super Juniors. From there, they will alternate days, where one day it'll be the Super Juniors tournament, and then the next day will be the World Tag League. And they will keep doing this until we get to the final day, where the finale of the tournament is December 11th. That's when the final matches for both tournaments will take place, and that is where both winners of that tournament will be crowned. So it's going to start on November 15th, and it's going to go all the way to December 11th. Obviously, more information will come in the upcoming weeks. And an interesting thing to note here is no show on Thanksgiving. Usually, during the World Tag League tournament, they have a show on Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. This year, no show on Thanksgiving, so none of us here in the United States have to get up early to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling if you decide to go that way. So, when more information comes out on both those tournaments, stay right here to That Wrestling Show to get more information. Okay, so normally I don't talk about politics, government politics. Wrestling politics, I'll take my best shot at it. But normally I don't talk about wrestling politics. Government politics. So, a couple weeks ago, it actually wasn't too long ago, The Rock announced that he is endorsing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, or Kamala. I call her Kamala Harris because of the wrestler. I know it's Kamala, but, And eventually, because he endorsed Biden and Harris, he's set Instagram records for most followers. I think he's gained like 2 million followers, or he's at 2 million followers. I'm not really sure. I want to talk about this because this is my personal opinion, and I'm not here endorsing anybody. This topic is going to be about endorsements. So this is sort of like your non-wrestling topic of the week this week. I don't believe in when people endorse other people for a political office, be it mayor, governor, senator, representative, or in this case, president. The way I look at it, when somebody endorses somebody in this environment for a political position, it is basically the equivalent to giving a kid a sticker saying, hey, you did a good job. I don't think people should buy into the idea of endorsements at all from athletes, celebrities, and other politicians. Basically, in a sense, it's making you say, hey, this person likes candidate number one. And if you like this person, then you should vote for candidate number one. Or, this person likes candidate number two. And I'm a fan of this person, so I'm going to vote for candidate number two. No. No. That's not how it works. Folks, we have an election coming up in 3 weeks' time. I want you to use your brain when you go to vote, if you're registered. And if you haven't registered, you should go register. You should think for yourself who you're going to vote for. You should not let a celebrity who does movies, TV shows, and, well, he hasn't had a match in a long time, make or convince you to vote for this person. You should not let an athlete who makes millions upon millions of dollars a year playing a game and not really caring for you to convince you to vote for this person. It should come to you. That is your decision. If you think that candidate number one is doing a good job at his or her position, then you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to vote for this person because I think he or she is doing a good job at what they're doing. Or, if you don't think that candidate number one is not doing a good job, and you think candidate number two is doing a much better job, then you should think to yourself, you know what? I think candidate number two will do a much better job than candidate number one. So I'm going to vote for candidate number two. That's how it should be. What I'm trying to get at, folks, is don't let these people who have, big money and have power to convince you to vote. It would be like if somebody walked up to me, had a sign that said, vote Yakov Smirnoff for president, and I decided to vote for Yakov Smirnoff for president of the United States. That's dumb. So, when you go to the polls, or when you're doing your ballots, whatever it is you're doing, think for yourself. Don't let celebrities, don't let athletes, don't let politicians tell you who you should vote for. You should vote for who you feel will do the best job possible. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a much serious story. And this is a story that was talked about earlier in the year with Alberto Del Rio. For those of you who don't remember, so let's take a field trip back to about 5 months ago. About 5 months ago. So in May, Alberto Del Rio, whose real name is Jose Alberto Rodriguez Xuquan, and I probably botched that last name, was arrested on May the 9th after a victim went to local authorities stating that on May the 3rd, Xuquan allegedly became angry with a woman and physically assaulted her after accusing her of infidelity. When the victim would not admit to it, Xuquan allegedly slapped her across the head several times. The victim also alleged that Xuquan forced her to wear a dress and dance for him, and that when she refused and he told her not to start crying, because if she did, he would take her son and drop him in the middle of the road somewhere. So the arrest affidavit stated that the woman alleged Xuquan had sexually assaulted her and that she had her injuries documented via photographs. At the time, the Fox affiliate in San Antonio reported the following. Police said Rodriguez Xuquan then tied the woman's hands with boxing straps, put a sock in her mouth, and sexually assaulted her for several hours using various objects. According to investigators, he also punched her in the back during the assault, causing visible injuries. The victim told detectives she does not remember much after he placed his hand around her throat. So today, Jose Chuquano, we'll just go Alberto Del Rio, was indicted on 1 count of aggravated kidnapping and 4 counts of sexual assault. If he is convicted of aggravated kidnapping, and this is in Texas, if he is convicted of this, it is punishable in the first degree, could result in a prison sentence ranging from 5 to 99 years or life imprisonment and or a fine up to $10,000. However, if the accused can prove they released the alleged victim voluntarily, then they could only be convicted of aggravated kidnapping in the second degree, which could result in a prison sentence ranging from 2 to 20 years and or a fine up to $10,000. This is a very serious situation. There's no joking about this whatsoever. Basically, here in the United States, Alberto Del Rio is done. There is nobody that is going to touch Alberto Del Rio with a 100-foot pole. If he is found guilty, and depending on which degree it is, first degree or second degree, his career is over. If he gets second degree, and the minimum is 2 years, I really don't want to speculate, but he could wrestle again in Mexico. Anything past 5, his career is over. It is done for. I mean, I can't say if he should get first degree or second degree, because the information there is information. We just don't know how the marks were, the bruises are. We really don't know how bad they are or were at the time. Like I said, as far as any promotion in the United States, Alberto Del Rio is done. He is done for. Mexico, you never know. But if he's found guilty, forget about it. He's done. His career is over with. He's never working again. And it's one of those tales where the guy had ability. Let's not mistake that. Alberto Del Rio had ability. He was a good wrestler. It is just this guy was, well, let's just put it bluntly, was a prick, was a tool. Treated people like crap. And we don't need those kind of people in the world right now, or at all. And this is a situation where nobody really wins, but this is an opportunity to put somebody who is treated terribly, put them away for good, or put them away for a long time. Remains to be seen. Now, tonight, or on Friday when I'm recording this, is the beginning of the 2020 WWE Draft. And when you tell people that it's the beginning of the WWE Draft, it's like, wait, didn't we already have this? Well, yeah, it's been a quick year, believe it or not. So, this is going to go over 2 nights on Fox and on USA. So WWE.com yesterday put up the rules for this year's WWE Draft, which I put up on our Facebook group. So Stephanie McMahon is going to preside over both nights of the draft. So, here are the rules. This is reported by Fox Sports. Over 60 male superstars, female superstars, and tag teams have been placed into this draft. More than 20 superstars are eligible to be drafted on SmackDown, and more than 30 are eligible to be drafted on Raw. Due to the length of each show, for every 2 picks that SmackDown selects, Raw will get 3 picks. Tag teams will count as 1 pick unless Fox or USA Network, in conjunction with WWE officials, wants to pick 1 superstar from the team. Any undrafted superstar will immediately be declared a free agent and able to sign with the brand of their choosing. So, what they have done is they have split the roster into 2 nights. So there is a Friday selection of roster and a Monday selection of roster. And they did this in alphabetical order, so that's how I'm going to read this to everybody. So let's look at how Friday is. Friday consists of Asuka, Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Dana Brooke, Humberto Carrillo, Angel Garza, Drew Gulak, Heavy Machinery, The Hurt Business, Mickie James, Lucha House Party, Drew McIntyre, The Miz and John Morrison, Murphy, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, Naomi, The New Day, Roman Reigns, Ricochet, Seth Rollins, Mandy Rose, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, Shorty G, AJ Styles, and Jey Uso. Those are the only people that can be picked on SmackDown for tonight's episode. For Raw, this coming Monday, the following people can only be selected: Andrade, Bayley, Aleister Black, Alexa Bliss, Daniel Bryan, Carmella, King Corbin, Apollo Crews, Nikki Cross, Dabba Kato, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, Elias, Eric of the Viking Raiders, Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair, Jeff Hardy, Billie Kay, Lana, Keith Lee, Riddick Moss, Natalya, Titus O'Neil, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, R-Truth, Retribution, Matt Riddle, The Riot Squad, Peyton Royce, Arturo Ruas, Sheamus, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro, The Street Profits, Braun Strowman, Tamina, Akira Tozawa, Zelina Vega, Bray Wyatt, and Sami Zayn. Those are the people that will be available on Monday for both shows to select. Now, what I'm going to do to make this fun is I'm going to take, since we're doing SmackDown tonight, I'm going to pick in general, just in general, I'm going to make 5 picks. It could be a singles competitor, it could be a tag team, it could be a stable, it could be whatever, that I think should go from Raw to SmackDown. And the first name off the bat that I think should go from Raw to SmackDown is Andrade. There is nothing for him to do at this point. They have wasted an opportunity. They have tried everything they could. It does not work. It has not worked. He needs a fresh start. He needs to go to SmackDown. Andrade will end up on the blue brand. Second pick is going to be Billie Kay. The Iconics have split up. You want to push Peyton Royce as a star. Why not send Billie Kay over to the blue brand? Who knows? Maybe she could end up as a star there on the blue brand. You never know. Anything is possible. Third pick, from the way things are going as of late, I could see Kevin Owens going to SmackDown. I know he's been on Raw for a year. Haven't really used Kevin Owens that good on Raw. Plus, he's been injured, so I think he's going to go to SmackDown as well. My fourth pick. Fourth pick. I only have 2 picks left. My fourth pick, I'm going to go Robert Roode. I think Robert Roode needs another opportunity at a singles push. I think he'd be very good in a singles, capacity, and I think, you could have a good, like a good heel compete for at least the Intercontinental title, once you have a legitimate face be the Intercontinental Champion. So I'd put Robert Roode there. And then the final pick to go from Raw to SmackDown is Seth Rollins. I think the whole Monday Night Messiah gimmick has run its course. They've done everything they could. And I think Seth's time on Raw is done. They should just move him away from Raw, move him to SmackDown, just get it over with. And then, once he's on SmackDown, somebody could take him out, and then he could be with Becky in time for the birth of the baby, and they have their kid. So, those are the 5 that I would move from Raw to SmackDown. Now, as far as the SmackDown brand, which 5 would I move from SmackDown to Raw? First person I'd move is AJ Styles. There's nothing for him to do. There really is nothing for him to do. They have not pushed him into a position to where he could be a legitimate threat to the Universal title. I think if you move him to Raw and they need a new number 1 heel, AJ Styles is your guy to go with. So I think AJ Styles is going to go from SmackDown to Raw. I also think Braun Strowman's going to go to Raw. It just has built up for a while. So Braun's going to be the next guy that's going to go from SmackDown to Raw. To be fair, I'm going to take a female competitor, move them to Raw like I did with Raw to SmackDown. I'm going to select Lacey Evans. She's just not been featured. I don't think there's anything for her to do at this point. She had more of a believable character on Raw, so I think Lacey Evans should go back to Raw. The fourth person that should go from SmackDown to Raw is Matt Riddle. I think Matt Riddle is more of a better use on Raw than he is SmackDown. He's not getting used at all on SmackDown. So I think a fresh start on Monday Night Raw could make things very, very easy for him. And the final move that I would make to finish this group, I would move Shorty G. I think Shorty G has the ability to become a player. I think you could see him be a believable contender to the United States Championship. Does he win the United States title? You never know. You never know how things work. But Shorty G is a great wrestler, great talent, has a lot of ability. It's just time for him to move to another brand and maybe get a fresh start and just go from there. That's how I look at it. Now, because this is WWE, and you have to always expect the unexpected, there is the NXT roster. Will NXT get involved in this? We don't know. So, I'm going to select I'm going to select 2 wrestlers, pardon me. I'm going to put one on Raw, and I'm going to put one on SmackDown just to say, hey, NXT got involved. So, the person that I am going to put on the Monday Night Raw brand to move from NXT is Johnny Gargano. He's done everything there is to do. He's been a tag team champion, North American champion, NXT champion. He's been in more takeover events, had more takeover matches, and I think keeping him on USA will have the fans familiar with him and to keep him in general in that position. So I say Johnny Gargano goes from NXT to Raw. For SmackDown, I'm going to go with the women's division. I think it is Rhea Ripley's time to go to SmackDown. Yes, she's young. She's in her early 20s, but she's done everything that she can do, and she's become a big star within a year. I really don't know what else there is for her to do. I think it's time for Rhea Ripley to go from NXT to the main roster, and I think she's going to end up on SmackDown, and I think that's going to be a very good fit for her. I think she's going to be in a very good division, and we'll see how it happens. So that is how I think the WWE, or what I would do, or what I would pick for the WWE Draft 2020. Okay, one last piece of business, and then going to wrap it up for this week, and it is to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and they made a couple of announcements a couple of days, or actually yesterday. Of course, we know the PWI 500 happens every year. A few years ago, they started up originally the PWI 50, which has now become the PWI 100. Well, get ready, folks, because this year we are getting the Tag Team 50. That's right, they are going to rank the 50 best tag teams in professional wrestling, and it's going to start this year. So, obviously, it's going to be a 12-month period that you're voting on, and the newsstand version of that issue will come out on December the 15th, with the digital release being on November the 19th. The digital release of the PWI Women's 100 comes out next week. So a few weeks after the digital release comes out, I will be getting the physical copy, and there will be an episode dedicated to the PWI Women's 100. So on that note, that's going to wrap it up for this week here on That Wrestling Show. So let's get into the plugs. If you have any questions or comments, send an email, wrestlingman@thatwrestlingshow.com. Follow the show on Twitter at WrestlingShow11. You can follow us during the WWE Draft on both nights, where if you miss SmackDown or you miss Raw, we'll have you covered with the picks that were made. Follow us on Instagram. Just type in That Wrestling Show. You are right there. Visit our merchandise store, teespring.com/That Wrestling Show podcast. Join our Facebook group. It is That Wrestling Show fan group. You type that in the search bar and you are right there. And add yourself. And visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/That Wrestling Show for wonderful extra content. This week, on another Digital Citizen, besides the news and TV of the week, it is another digital review of A Call to Spy. Plus, the episode 4 review of Woke and much more. That is this week on another Digital Citizen. Now, if you're looking for wrestling podcasts, check out our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast with Joe Murata and Michael Quinn. They take you through the world of retro wrestling. This week, they discuss disappointing combinations. It's a very interesting listen. You should check that one out. Plus, week 3 of the Royal Rankings of the best factions of all time. And they go to Memphis for a review of CWA Wrestling from March 8th, 1986. That is this week on our Vantage Point. Plus, and again, this is the only podcast where we will plug another show's Patreon page. It really is, because they've been so nice to us and we've been nice to them. If you sign up for their $5 tier, that's their highest tier, you will get, and it's been out for a week. I haven't had a chance to finish it yet, but it has been fantastic. Their review of WrestleMania 7 Superstars and Stripes Forever. It is an unbelievable review, and I'm not even halfway through the review. So check it out, our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast. Now, if you like your podcast hosted by one individual, check out Greetings from Allentown with PW Peter Winston. He watches one episode of professional wrestling each week and talks about it in his own way. This week, he watches an episode of NWA Worldwide from January 24th, 1987. This is the episode of Ric Flair versus Barry Windham, The Match. It is a one-match show, and it is an unbelievable match. If you've never seen it, you might want to listen to his review this week on Greetings from Allentown. Also, check out Juice Pro Wrestling. This week they had Val Capone. She discussed the collective event that is actually going on as it is recording right now in Indianapolis. That is all the way to October the 11th. Plus, they discuss other wrestling news and a lot more. That is Juice Pro Wrestling. And check out Two Fans Review Wrestling Podcast. This week, they discussed the first time Raw and Nitro went head-to-head, and you'll get to hear their thoughts on who they think won the first round. Check it out this week, Two Fans Review Wrestling Podcast. Now, if you're looking for non-wrestling related podcasts, there are some good non-wrestling related podcasts you should check out. Check out the Best Pick Movie Podcast with Tom, John, and Jess. They watch each and every Academy Award-winning Best Picture winner in no particular order. Excuse me. This week, they discuss the Best Picture winner of 1964, My Fair Lady. And this is quite a packed year for Best Picture nominees. I just want to read this off, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. Besides My Fair Lady, you have Beckett, Dr. Strangelove, Mary Poppins, and Zorba the Greek. Those are your Best Picture nominees. This is a very interesting Academy Awards because it is the only time in Oscar history that 3 films got 12 or more nominations. And Mary Poppins had 13. I've seen 3 of the 5, actually. Beckett I have not seen. I have not seen Zorba the Greek. I'm not really sure if I'm going to ever get to any of those 2. But if I had a vote, I'd give it to Mary Poppins. I think that's the better musical of the 2. I think it's the better movie of the 2. My vote would have gone to Mary Poppins for Best Picture. But you guys listen, and you put in your 2 cents on who you think was the Best Picture of 1964. That is the Best Pick Movie Podcast. Also, check out Unspooled with Paul and Amy. This time around, because we're into the Halloween season, they're going to watch some horror movies. And eventually these movies, along with school movies, are going to be going into outer space. This week, they discussed the 1931 classic Frankenstein. And I'm going to be honest, I love that movie. It's a fantastic movie. I don't really consider it a horror movie. I consider it more of a drama than a horror movie. But that's just me. Also, check out the Castle Vault, where it is a chronological deep dive of Disney animated films powered by Disney+. This week, they discuss Home on the Range. I've never seen that movie, but according to Jim, there is a villain that yodels. So I'm going to check that out sometime in the near future. That is in the Castle Vault. A couple of new podcasts I want to plug. This first one might be a one-time only plug. It seems like they have ended, but I'm going to plug it anyway. And I want to thank Captain Marvelous for giving me these suggestions. The Weird Al Phabet. It is a podcast where 4 friends discuss each and every Weird Al song that he's ever done, and they do it in alphabetical order. They go from A to, well, since he doesn't have a song that begins with a Z, it goes to Y. But hey, at least they've done all the songs. Check it out. Each episode dedicated to one song that Weird Al has done. It is the Weird Al alphabet. Also check out Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast, where it's basically all things Weird Al. That's how it is. It's in the title of the show. Dave and it's the Weird Al podcast. Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast. Also, check out Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast, where I discuss and review each and every South Park episode. Now, this week, you gotta be super serial about it, because I reviewed this week Man Bear Pig. That's the episode reviewed this week on Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast. Jim Boystar just recently did the newest edition or episode of WW Free, which you can listen to not only on his podcast channel, but also on Eliminated or Royal Rumble podcast channel. And this one, this is actually the first one where I'm not on it. I could not get on this one, but it seems like a fun episode because he and Sarah watched This Tuesday in Texas. That is the episode, or that is the event that they watch, so check them out. I do want to say real quick a couple of things. First off, congratulations go out to Smart Wrestling Fan, who just did this week their 800th episode. Yes, there is a podcast that has done 800 episodes. This is at least one of them. I know at times I've been a little critical of them, but if it wasn't for that podcast being an influence, there would be no That Wrestling Show. There would be no Our Vantage Point. There would have been no Off the Ropes. A lot of the wrestling podcasts that are not done by wrestlers or people in the business have been influenced by Smart Wrestling Fan. And I just want to send congratulations to Joe, Amy, Larry, and everybody there on the 800th episode of That Wrestling Show. Like I said, if Smart Wrestling Fan had not existed, there might not be That Wrestling Show. Finally, I want to end this. Obviously, we know this past Wednesday we learned of the sad death of Eddie Van Halen, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, passing away at the age of 65 years old from cancer. That's a young age. And, cancer takes a lot of people. It really does. It took my uncle 17 years ago. But Eddie Van Halen was one of the great guitarists of all time. If he's not in your discussion, at least in the discussion of the greatest guitarists of all time, to me, you really don't know guitarists. So what I wanted to do this week to wrap up the show is go back in time. Go back to the days when I used to do a little YouTube show called Wrestling Man's Wrestling Show. And for the first few months, this would be the song that I would end the show on every week. So I thought as a nice tribute to Eddie Van Halen to play the song that I would always close Wrestling Man's Wrestling Show off on every week. It is a cover of Happy Trails from the Diver Down album, which I really think is an underrated album. I know people don't like it, but I actually like it. I think it's a fun album to listen to. So, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And for this week, happy trails to you until we meet again.
Bombadita, 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 until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling all day. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and think about sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.